All right, it does show 3:50, but I'll give it another minute just in case people are still joining. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. My name is Alec McClendon. I'm the president of KME at the host school, the University of Central Missouri, and I will be leading this student discussion here. The main goal of this discussion will be to give our recommendations or thoughts to the National Committee based on how the virtual conference went and what type of changes they can have for future meetings. The first thing is I was asked to promote the KME Twitter account. So if you have Twitter, the KME account is at KME Math. So you can follow them if you choose to do so. Now on to my first question. It was going to be for the student presenters. However, I don't know if any are in this call yet. Do we have anybody that presented in the conference in here yet? Okay, Joshua says he was. All right, so my first question will be for you and Lindsay as well. Okay, so let's see. This is the conference's first time doing virtual presentations. And so we were wondering like what went well for you guys or what improvements you would have and just how your experience was in general.
Well, I gotta say,
and I'll be jotting down notes too as well. So if any of you guys have thoughts, you could chime in. That'd be good.
Personally, I presented both in person elsewhere and virtually here. I think it's not nearly as smooth as an in-person presentation, but also in terms of virtual presentations, I thought it went really smoothly. The transitions and having it on the Zoom webinars, I think that worked really well.
I did other virtual presentations too, and this one was so far the best. It was definitely smooth with the transitions, and it was nice how they had people muted, so it didn't have random people talking throughout the thing. But they made you co-host it and have everybody that they were able to unmute and have their video on at times. So that was nice.
Yeah, I was going to say this is, I've also presented online at other places, and this was very, very smooth. Yeah, I think it went really well.
All right, thank you for the feedback. And by the way, all your guys' presentations were really good, so thank you. Now, the next question will be for all the other students that are at the convention. And so what are your guys' thoughts? It should be a little bit of a different point of view because we were the ones listening to the presentations. So were there any challenges that you guys faced, such as like connection issues or pretty much if you have attended a convention in the past, like how is this one different virtually instead of in person, pretty much?
As far as the presentations went, I think it was pretty comparable to the last national convention a couple years ago. So I think it went pretty well. Here, a number of us met in person to listen together. and we had to consider audio, for instance. So we had one computer where all the sound was coming from. Aside from that, we didn't have any major challenges.
Comparatively, I feel like it's pretty similar, but whenever we did things in person, it seemed like maybe there was a bit more content. So I think people maybe are still not used to the format. So maybe there weren't as many volunteers, but then connection-wise, it seemed like it was fine. I'm curious, like if we had more questions today, because I've noticed that you like asking questions in this format, you have the option to ask anonymously. So there might be some people that are more inclined to answer. However, because of the fact that you have to type your questions out, I feel like maybe if there's not a question right away, that there should be just a little bit more pause to give people a chance to type out a question.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point that I had not thought of. Does anybody else have any feedback on the virtual convention?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
I felt this is my first KME convention, so I'm not going to speak about previous years, but I felt it went well overall. But I do feel like there was some connectivity issues, like there was like sound feedback, residual sound feedback at times. But other than that, it went really well. Thank you, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So last question as far as the convention goes. Do you guys think that the virtual format went well as far as like, do you think in the future when we're not required to have a virtual meeting, do you think that we should keep some aspects, or do you think we should just go completely virtual for the future?
Well, from my perspective, from someone who presented, this is my first KME convention, and I was comfortable doing the virtual platform. Either in person or virtual is fine with me. I think maybe the virtual option, even if we go back to like in-person conventions, I think maybe having the virtual option gives people who otherwise wouldn't be able to an opportunity, like maybe the Hawaii chapter, or like if we ever opened a chapter like in Alaska, or if we ever opened a chapter in like a territory or something, it might give those people a chance to present when they otherwise wouldn't be able to.
I agree with that. I prefer the in-person stuff, but I think the option to be virtual and to have people Zoom in for presentations or even just as guests to the conference, I think that would be really nice as well.
I would have to third that because yes, the social interaction is nice of an in-person convention, but life happens for various reasons. It creates more, it allows more people to possibly be part of the convention if you offer a virtual option as well. Thank you.
So I agree with everything said so far, but I do think it would be worthwhile to put an effort forth to keep the in-person element somewhat special. Not to say that we should try to make it to where there's exclusive parts, because that doesn't seem right. But if it's too convenient, right, to do things from a long distance, there might be some people that would normally come in person who would opt to, well, we don't have to travel, and so just stay at home. And then there could be a shift towards it just becoming permanently virtual. And I agree that there's a lot of in-person stuff that's really nice, but at the same time, though, it would be good to see how we could incorporate this type of platform to make it more hybrid, especially because there's no reason why you can't give a talk long distance. There's nothing preventing that from happening. So we could have talks of both formats. And then just if people are in person, you could have things up on a large screen. The workshops are an interesting element because workshops can be very hands-on, but there's probably ways that you could accomplish like the more hands-on workshops in a hybrid format as well, but there might be a need to have material requirements shared up front. And then of course you'd have to think ahead about how can I make sure that these materials are easily accessible to people. But that would go a long way in making sure that if we do have some sort of hybrid element, that we don't have to be as limited in what workshops cover, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Those were all great points. So just kind of to sum that up, I think where we were going on that is like, we do want it open to as many people as possible, right? But there's definitely something special about in-person, and we want people to have that full experience of an in-person presentation, both the givers of the presentation and the audience members. But having that virtual option is great for like, as somebody said, Hawaii. I highly doubt that they would have made it to Missouri for this convention in person. So yeah, thanks guys. Moving on to the next question. So now we're going to go more towards, oh, okay. Actually, we have somebody in the chat here. So Danny says, I'm actually from the Hawaii chapter, and because of the virtual availability, I'm able to attend as time moves on. Without a doubt, having it in person would be a different experience. So yeah, thanks, Danny. We would love to have you in person for conventions like this, but it's great that you can attend virtually as well. So now we're going to move more towards talking about our individual chapters. So the first question is, how has the pandemic affected your chapter, and how has it kept active during this pandemic?
Our chapter has some community outreach activities. For instance, we typically have an annual event where we invite local high schoolers to partake in like Math Olympiad style games. And we had to cancel that this year. Otherwise, it hasn't been too much of an impediment. Although our campus is in person right now, so I think we may have it better than most other places.
I'd have to say our chapter at Alabama Theta has been fairly negatively impacted by pandemic stuff. We had just been trying to make some better moves since the last national convention. Some of us officers had been trying to push for more activity and trying to come up with ideas. Like one chapter had mentioned that they were doing homework nights, and so we were trying to adopt something like that. And we were having some success, but then after the pandemic, all of that pretty much came to a halt. And we didn't have the most active chapter to start with, so it's been pretty hard to do much. We always had fairly productive math club meetings, which the chapter kind of hosted, but it was open to anybody that wanted to come. And it was mostly just a social gathering, but even that's really suffered just because it seems like people are less motivated to stick around when they're just on a Teams call or something. So if anyone has like some good ideas of what their chapter has done to stay active or more active during the pandemic, that would be really great to hear.
Dovetailing on that, the Beta Kansas chapter has been doing a, and I'll throw it over to Kyle because he's been involved in this as well. We've done a virtual math competition with intermediate and advanced high school age students all around the world. They're out to find Pythagoras. Pythagoras is someplace, and we are giving clues every week for every successful endeavor of meeting the benchmarks for every passing week. And there were questions themed around a general idea, I believe. Kyle, can you name a few of the different themes?
It was more separated into time periods. Like the very first set of questions was based around Egyptian and was it Babylonian mathematics. The next set was then centered around, I don't remember off the top of my head, but some of the other time periods were like modern, Germain era, Gauss era, and it just followed logical chunks of time period.
Yeah, basically anything you would see in a history of math course, we took chunks of time from a history of math course and said, here are some questions from this era of time, this era of math, this place of math, and currently they are on mathematical modeling in the modern era. That is our group. We have constructed a set of models for them to answer for what's a modeling question you could ask middle school age kids, and it proved to be very difficult to figure something out like that, but it was worth it because we feel like we got something there along speed and two balls hitting one another and stuff like that. So they're utilizing T-graphs and different things like that to get a sense of what math could become for them and see that the real life applications. And then the advanced kids have bigger, harder problems. But the idea was, how can we positively influence? That was the whole thing. So if you want to see that, what it was and what it can be, feel free to head to the Emporia State University.
I can put a link in the chat too.
And there's a link that Kyle can bring in, and to our Mathilanius place that has been this we've been doing it since like January, so it's now it's coming to a head where we're about to the finals, and then a winner will be announced very shortly, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. That's a great idea and a great way to get other students involved as well. So yeah, I see that link in there. Yeah, let me write that down real quick.
And if I can mention, for our final, we're actually thinking about combining some of these disciplines, like what about Germain primes mixed with Egyptian mathematics, hieroglyphs, and that. So it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool, guys. Thank you.
And then Alec, I didn't know if you wanted someone to speak on behalf of the Missouri Beta chapter.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
With everyone. So in the past, it was last year, we did Pitch and Chili, which if you guys don't know, Pitch is a fun card game. But when we hosted that for our chapter, it was inside. And unfortunately this year with social distancing and such, we wanted to do something similar with a game night because we all enjoy playing games and getting together. So we had a bonfire outside. So we were able to socially distance and still play some games like cornhole. And I believe roasted some marshmallows and had s'mores and stuff to get people involved in with our chapter.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I definitely enjoyed that bonfire as well. It was a great time, just talk and make some s'mores. Also, I was going to say, fortunately, the pandemic hasn't affected our chapter too much in terms of our basic structure. We still are able to hold our monthly meetings with a math-centered activity or lesson. The only differences would be that we also hold a Zoom capability for that for students who either aren't comfortable meeting in person or are off campus. And then also, we weren't able to have refreshments like food or drinks this year at our meetings, which in the past we kind of used it as a marketing tool, like, hey, come to this meeting and get some free pizza. So we weren't able to do that this year, which kind of stunk. But anyway, that's how our chapter was affected. The next question that we had was, what has been your best KME activity either this year or in the past? And just kind of your best memory from KME.
Again, Alabama Theta hasn't been the most active, so like we do more like trying to host our math club than anything, but I think the most fun that we had as actual KME members was actually traveling in person to the national convention 2 years ago. That was probably the highlight. That was a lot of fun.
I have to say, I agree. Prosper, Maryland was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Highlight of KME's.
Yeah, so just kind of going off that. So we're from Missouri, and it took us 2 days as a group to drive to Maryland, but it was just a great time to bond. And each night we would play card games and after the presentations and stuff. So traveling to the convention was a great experience. Does anybody else have a good memory or activity that they would like to share with us?
We do weekly game nights, which are generally pretty successful. When we were sent home last year, we continued it over Zoom, and we tried a whole bunch of remote options like Tabletop Simulator. We do, so that worked out pretty well for us.
Yeah, for Alabama Theta, we, like Marcus said, our KME group kind of hosts our Jacksonville State University Math Club. And, we've been able to do a few of those meetings over the last couple of semesters. They're all virtual. And we've been meeting over Microsoft Teams, and we've been trying to use a board game arena. And it's got a bunch of games in there, and we played Scribble.io some. So we've had some good times. It's been, like Marcus said, it's been a challenge with COVID restrictions, but we've been trying to make the best of it, and we've had a lot of fun.
All right, and it looks like Marcus just sent the link for that board game arena. So that sounds like a great thing for KME, especially during this virtual time that you could do during a meeting or just for a game night.
I always forget that the Google link is going to look ridiculous, so I shared like the proper website there. Board Game Arena is nice. They don't have everything, but it is a pretty good platform, and they've got some of the popular games. There's also experimental stuff, and there's actually some independently created games that are on there. I actually know a guy that's posted a couple of his own board games on there, so it's a neat platform. If anyone's chapter is looking for something like that, I definitely suggest giving it a try, but it would probably be a good idea for your chapter, depending on size, to have 1 or 2 premium accounts. That way you can host your own private tables really easy. But I don't think it's very expensive. Like our chapter sponsor basically just bought one for his own personal use, and we just use that, and that's been sufficient for us so far.
So on this platform, if you have, say, an account or something like that, you play online here, play these board games just online amongst everyone just remotely. Am I catching that correctly, or is that not correct?
No, that's correct. So basically they have a platform where they are able to simulate the games using just basic website elements. Tabletop Simulator was mentioned, and that's a really good option for a lot of people that are computer savvy and own the software. But for some people, having Tabletop Simulator is just not feasible. But Board Game Arena should work for anyone that's able to use a web browser.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks. Is this means for an inter-chapter competition on
That's a great question, and I don't want to derail. So, Alec, if this is off topic, you stop us. But I was curious if, especially if some of us are having trouble staying active or motivating our own chapters to do projects, if maybe we should look at inter-college collaboration somewhat, especially during pandemic if stuff's having to be done virtually. Like you guys mentioned, you're doing a math competition. Well, our chapters mentioned that they thought about doing stuff like that before, but it never came about. But if you guys needed help and some of our members like didn't have any of our own operations to do, maybe we could collaborate and help write problems and stuff.
I think that would be a lot of fun. And I love all the posts since then saying that that's a cool idea. That helps me understand that I did a cool thing there. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in inter-chapter collab. And I can't speak for everyone else in Alabama Theta, but I think Marcus would agree with me. We know our participants pretty well, and I think they would probably be on board with it too. Would you agree, Marcus?
Yeah, I do. I think it would be something cool. And I'd like to see like we have a lot of people that join the chapter, but then they're not really involved. And, you know, having more activities would probably be a way to get our own chapter more active, like within itself. So like even if it starts as just collaboration between chapters, I think that could be a really good way to do it. And of course, it's always really fun to interact with you guys from other places. You're always really interesting people.
I think that'd be a great idea too.
Yeah, it sounds like that idea was definitely a winner. So thank you for that. And see, Danny says, I think that would be a good thing since sometimes Hawaii seems to be disconnected from the mainland, given time zones being a major part of it. Oh yeah, that's another good point too. So if we are going like a big distance between these competitions, we'd also have to think about time zones if we're doing it at the same time. But yeah, that's a great idea, and it would be fun to just compete with the other chapters. So we'll definitely write that down, and hopefully that will be implemented here. Or you could just do it with your own chapter too. Reach out to someone close to you and get a competition started. So the last topic we have for this discussion is fundraising, as that's a big part of KME. It's how we stay afloat with your respective chapter. And so what ideas do you guys have for fundraising, or what fundraisers do you guys already do with your chapter? And I'll go ahead and give my perspective on this. So every year we have a book sale, which our faculty or students will donate their textbooks that they're not using anymore to us. And then we will sell those for pretty cheap to other students or faculty. And that's the main moneymaker or fundraiser for our chapter. In the past, we've also had a bake sale. However, we were not able to do that this year because of COVID guidelines. And then the last one that I could think of, it's not something that my chapter does, but I remember another chapter talking about it at a past convention, and I thought it was really cool. For Pi Day, they have like a table set up, I believe, and then for $5 or so, a student can come by and throw a pie in the face of one of their faculty members. So that just kind of stuck out to me. I remembered that, and I think that's a great idea. So does anybody else have fundraiser ideas for us?
You could always sell like moon pies and like Cokes and stuff, since they're already individually wrapped, and it'd be perfectly safe according to COVID guidelines, because like moon pies and Pi Day and stuff, that'd be a good connection.
I don't have all the specifics on it, how much they cost, how much they net us when we sell them, but they're like $2, but they're friendship bracelets that are interwoven, and they're very cool, and we know somebody that is involved in that process of being able to create them. So I'm not too certain on the specifics, but something friendship bracelet small that can, you would get $1 of profit for each one you sell, something simple like that.
So we're still learning at Alabama Theta, like I say. So we didn't have just like an overwhelming success, but we did learn some stuff. We tried to do a t-shirt sale. We don't really like, as far as like funding, we haven't had to do any fundraisers. So necessity hasn't really driven us to do a whole lot, because since we haven't been that active, just the money that we get from people registering has been enough to provide all the stuff that we would typically have bought. But we decided to try and do a fundraiser partially because our Student Government Association basically will match some funding if you do have a fundraiser. So we were trying to get that started, and I think it's a really good idea. I have some examples of things that we had put together. I don't know how good we can see this. This was my design. And unfortunately, even though I thought this was cute and it was popular in our discussions about like what kind of t-shirt we should do, this one actually did not sell very well. Just for KME members, we decided to try and have a chapter t-shirt. So somebody had put together this design. This was pocketed. And then on the back, we had this. And, you know, this wasn't just an overwhelming success, but we did actually sell a fair number of these. And we thought that they were a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to wear these to math club meetings and stuff. But we found that if you do math puns on a green shirt with white letterings, that it looks like it's on a chalkboard, that this actually is desirable. Again, you know, we didn't have just huge success, but a lot of people actually wanted this one with the math puns. On the back, we had this joke. That was nice. And then if you take the time to have like a math club logo or a chapter logo or something put together for your school specifically, it can be a good opportunity to kind of show that off. So t-shirt sales are probably a really good idea if you can find a good producer. We're blessed because we have a little opportunity center that actually is like, it's a nonprofit that's intended to try and create jobs. So they work with the school a lot with different clubs to try and get t-shirts for fundraisers so that you can actually have it be profitable. So if you have something like that around you, I would say that t-shirt sales are probably a really good way to go, but definitely aim for more stuff like math puns, because even if it's something just really stupid, a lot of times it seems even not math people enjoy having the dad joke t-shirts to wear. Anybody in the sciences will generally appreciate those.
Yeah, thanks for sharing on that. We have done t-shirts in the past, but I don't believe we've ever sold them to just all students or just the public. We've only sold them to our own members. So that's a great idea for fundraising. And that was the last thing that I had as far as questions go. Does anybody have any last thoughts or comments about KME in general or this convention?
I'll keep it real brief, but I'm just wondering, like, if we want to have any kind of interchapter communication and stuff, do we have any kind of platform? Like my chapter's got like their own little Facebook group, but then like, do we have any national stuff where chapters can communicate? Like, I know we don't really have anything like that built into a website, but it would be really nice to see like some platform specifically for chapters to talk to one another.
We have a chapter Zoom channel. I don't know how easy it is to add people to that. Maybe we could set something up between everybody and just have a point of contact from each interested chapter in there.
Yeah, if somebody would like to spearhead the invites to a centralized location, it could be anybody that creates that thing. It just have to be agreed upon by the collective body. So I agree with that approach.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything set up for all chapters. The only thing I can think of is just the like the KME website. I've visited before, but I don't believe it has like emails for each chapter or anything like that. So that's definitely a good point that we should, because that would invite collaboration more among the chapters.
How many of the other universities utilize Microsoft Teams? I heard Alabama.
My chapter does not, but I'm not sure about the other chapters. Do any of you guys use Microsoft Teams?
So Emporia State just rolled it out to the student body, where an individual team could be set up, and it's a great alternative to a Zoom meeting as far as functionality, shared drives, those sorts of things.
Honestly, I despise Facebook, but I think that it's probably one of the more accessible things. So I'm kind of thinking that it might be good to have a closed Facebook group that would be open to anyone that's a member of some in just any chapter of KME. If we already have something like that, I'm wondering if maybe we just need to be more active in using it. I don't know what goes on because I'm not on Facebook a lot right now, but I would definitely be willing to spend some time if it meant that we could have more inter-chapter communication.
I know there's a closed LinkedIn group. Nobody uses it. I think I'm probably the only person under 35 years old in there. But perhaps it could be repurposed, or we could make something like that, but is actually active.
I like Marcus's idea with create a Facebook group, send it out to the department heads, have the department heads distribute it to the students in the chapters.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I will recommend it to the committee, and I don't think we'd have any problem having one of them set up, finding out who the chair heads are, and get that set up for us. So thanks, guys. I'll be on for a few minutes if you have any questions or comments or just want to chat. But otherwise, the concluding meeting will start at 4:50, I believe. Yep, 4:50. So just be back for that. And thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, so I did have a pandemic-related question. It seems like a lot of our math majors were called to service, especially in middle school mathematics, to help with tutoring and instructional support. I was just wondering if that was found in other areas of the country.
I had a personal tutoring gig before the pandemic, and the pandemic put an end to that. So I had the opposite experience here.
Something that I picked up on, like I think even at the college level, like with all the virtual learning, I think even the college level had more tutoring that was needed. I think just all levels, because a lot of students find it more difficult to learn virtually. So yeah, I definitely understand that tutoring has been very important lately.
Yeah, so with UCM, we switched to tutoring totally virtually. So there was like a drop in our usage, but I found myself having more private tutoring gigs from students from totally different schools. But yeah.
It sounded like there was, they may have already left, but it sounded like there was like multiple chapters from Alabama here, it sounds like. Are you guys still on?
Well, me and Marcus are both from Alabama Theta. I don't know about any other chapters.
Okay, I was just wondering if, for some reason I thought there was another one too. I was wondering if you guys had ever like met other than a convention, like the once a year thing.
Marcus put something in the chat regarding the link to Facebook group, I believe.
Yeah, instead of sending it to the department heads, I'd say maybe just do it to your chapter sponsors.
Yeah, I misspecified that when I was saying that. So yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Meaning like the head faculty for each chapter. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The advisor for the KME at that institution. I believe that should be.
Yeah.
We could also send it maybe to like chapter presidents too. That might be good if we have access to those emails. You asked if Alabama Theta had like met up. Do you mean have we met with other chapters?
Yeah, I picked up on that. Alabama seemed to be pretty popular with KME. I even remember from the last convention I went to. So I was wondering if, like, you guys must have a good thing going. I was wondering what
I think maybe it's more that we're starved for a good thing because, as you know, Alabama doesn't usually have the best math test scores. So we are the math people.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're probably like the most passionate about it because of how starved that area is. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
So if anybody's like, anywhere near JSU and wants to like arrange a meetup, that might be something cool to do.
I've only ever been down to Alabama once.
So. We've got some really great state parks. Like we have that.
Yeah, I was down in Cary, Mississippi one time on a mission trip. So that's how I kind of made my way down to that neck of the woods. And it was a lot of fun. It was, like you said, very woodsy, all that. And yeah, anyway, off topic. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, we're done with the main conversation. So
well, since it is a national discussion, there is an argument for meeting in the middle. We can argue where that is, but I think Kansas has a pretty strong argument for that.
Yeah, Kansas or Missouri, both pretty close there.
I don't know. Our Hawaii member might say that it's more in California.
Yeah, we got to include Hawaii in there. That is a variable.
Are we going for the geometric?
Yeah, I mean, like.
Do we want the weighted center?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
No, what you do is you take all 50 states and include the territories, and then you divide that number by 2, so you get a physical halfway, and then from there you start at the eastmost, and then just start counting leftward, start counting westward, and like wherever that physical like halfway is, that's just where you set it.
So what would your guess be of where it would end up?
Since we don't have any chapters right now in like any territories or anything, I guess like I
assume with Hawaii and I assume with Hawaii factored in, it's somewhere around Nevada or California, like you said.
You put this into play.
I do believe that's where it would be. Marcus, what did you provide?
Geomidpoint.com. You put in a list of directions and it will tell you like the traveling distance midpoint, and it'll also give you the actual geographic midpoint.
I'm not surprised that this exists. I have never looked for this nor needed it.
Honestly, I think it would be pretty cool to have something in like Colorado or like Arizona or something. I mean, I know Arizona is the desert and it's pretty hot there, but I mean, Arizona does have some pretty cool things to look at and explore and stuff.
Yeah, I believe a few years ago, or actually it might have been 4 or 6 years ago for a national convention. It was in Florida, which I wasn't able to go on, but I've seen pictures and heard that it was a really great time, which makes sense because right by the beach.
Just watch out for Florida Man. Oh, that's a bad joke. I don't know if y'all have ever heard that or not.
I thought it was a myth.
No, Florida Man is not a myth. Florida Man is very much real.
Florida Man's name is Dakota Heathcock.
Yep, and his brother is Marcus Shell.
Oh gosh. was going to say, if we decide that KME needs to be a more secretive organization, then we'll go for the geometric midpoint in 3 dimensions. We can be underground, go for the center of mass.
That one might take a little work.
Yeah, but that gives us our excuse to do more fundraising.
Yeah, we would need a lot of it, that's for sure.
I'm reminded of a quote from, what was that movie? Jaws. We would need a bigger drill, but instead of a boat, we would need a bigger drill to accomplish this feat. Yeah. Anyway.
Imagine doing a KME national convention where instead of like an auditorium or like a stadium or something, we just rented like an outdoor space in like South Dakota, and we had the KME convention like under or like in the shadow of Mount Rushmore. So like the founding fathers like watching over us as we had our convention.
This could go a couple of ways.
If you really want to know like some humorous physics on going through the center of the earth, just check out the April Fool's video that It's Okay to Be Smart put out. That's also linked. A lot of fun.
Hey, here's a thought. How about we have a national convention in Hawaii? How many people do you think would be able to go to that?
We would really need a virtual aspect at that point.
Yeah, but the few that are able to go, that would be the best trip.
Hey, I'd be down.
Hands down, that would be an amazing trip. I have been there. The macadamia nuts covered in chocolate are second to none. All that glorious stuff about Hawaii. It is a 15-hour plane ride from the center of the United States. It is a long trip.
Hey, look, if we're going all the way to Hawaii, let's just go ahead and go a step further and let's just see if we can book Sydney, Australia, you know?
Yeah, at that point. How does everybody else think about like how this is kind of a smaller group, a little bit more less formal. Everybody's kind of nervous talking in front of a bigger group, especially all online, because you're not sure if they're there or if they're, you know, what's really going on. Does anybody not have like haven't expressed anything that they would like to? No, literally no.
I know a couple people in here are in my chapter all in the same room, so that's probably why they're not talking, but
that makes total sense.
Yeah, we had some feedback issues earlier, so
it's all your fault, Alec. Gosh. All right, cool. Who's there with you?
So we have 12 students that attended, but I believe the only one still in here, Haley, is in my chapter as well. She's the vice president. So,
okay.
Yep.
And you're the president?
Yep, I am.
Cool. Hey. I am just a straight member of the Emporia chapter. I'm here in our KME math lab. Well, it's not a, I get those confused. I'm sorry. I was in the KME math lab last night. This is Brighton math lab. So we have this
oh, nice.
It's kind of like a tutoring center almost.
Yeah, it's a tutoring center. We have people here all the hours of the day from 5 to 9 or 8 to, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, 9 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, Monday through Thursday. And then they close at 5 on Friday. And they offer help for various undergrad math classes and whatnot. So.
And in the corner down there is like a little shrine to mathematics, along with a bunch of old textbooks from like, some of them are like from the 50s, 40s.
Some are older than dirt. Some are older than the dirt on dirt. So, yeah.
Somewhere around when the Big Bang happened.
Yeah, this is Mathellanius. You get a bunch of books like that, some old calculators, mathematicians.
Oh, you guys have got the setup, man.
Leibniz took a fall. I was here when that happened, and it scared the living. It was scary. So yeah. Anyway, and there's a really old calculator. So, yeah, that's our little neck of the woods here.
So I have a question. What room are we going to go into for the closing session?
I think it's this one. I left and I joined again. I'm pretty sure it just took me back here, and provided I click the right link.
Yeah, so we'll be using this same room. So if y'all are finished up, I will actually be closing this link and then just restarting it for the closing ceremony.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Nice to
All
meet you.
righty. Thanks, everyone.
Good to meet y'all.